All right.
These things are all crazy. So
I, yeah.
I have like 35 minutes, which is plenty, but I do want to catch up with you. I figure you're going to be at the gig on Saturday.
Yes.
You guys are only about 106 miles. You know, Vin asked me about it. Like, I haven't seen a live show in 7 months. I never thought that was possible before. You know,
Wow.
it's it's insane. The fact that it's you guys just makes it even better. But
So you're going to make it out?
yeah, I'm driving down Saturday. I'll probably get there like, mid afternoon, grab something to eat, and then hang. Like I refuse to work. Like if Kyle or anyone wants to do this, that's one thing, because this is like a different project. But I just want to see a fucking show. I want to see
Oh.
you guys play. Do you guys even know how it's like? Do you guys know how it's set up?
You know what? I know it's outside,
Yeah.
and this is such a weird thing. I've got musician friends that I would never expect to like be weirded out by playing a live gig. These guys have toured the country and they're like, "Are you okay with playing a gig?" I'm like, well, okay, there's three scenarios. Am I going to get sick? Am I going to get somebody sick? Or is somebody else going to get somebody else sick? That's it. So that's all you're worried about. I said, well, we'll do our part. So everyone do your part, and it's outside. So I'm not worried about it. Like if, just do your part.
Wash your hands.
Yeah.
Don't lick toilet seats, and you should
Right.
be okay.
Yeah.
The fact that the CDC actually listed glory holes as a part of their safe sex policy. Like, this is real. This is the world we're living in. I thought for sure it was some kind of joke, but no, they're recommending
Right.
glory holes so that you don't transmit saliva.
Wow. Fantastic. Good to know, though.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'll ask the same 7 questions. The documentary is really just about musicians and their relationship with music. It correlates with the video. The video will be at the end. So the first question to every musician is, at what age or era in your life did you realize you were in love with music?
How Long by the band Ace. So the band, it was my first favorite song. I was even later on in life, but the band Ace, the song called How Long. I remember driving with my dad. We were on the way taking some horses to Lexington, Kentucky and this song came on like however many times. It was a 8-hour drive or whatever it is, and it came on 3 times on all this AM radio, and I like this song. And I heard other stuff, and my uncle would play us crazy stuff throughout the years, but that was my first favorite song. So I don't know, I was probably 8, and I really knew I like music, but I started late. It wasn't until maybe 16 when I started playing music and like really started taking it serious. So, but yeah.
You've been a guitar player. The guitar player has always been like the sexy position in music. Was that something that you actively seeked out to do because you thought, I want to be the rock star, I want to be the sexy musician on stage?
I think I actually my first band, I played a little guitar, but I started as a singer who could play guitar. So I'm not a shredder. I can't play fast. I don't think I did the right drugs to be able to play fast. So I can play melodic, but I can't play fast. So yeah. And my brother's favorite line ever was, someone asked him, and I use this, and I'll steal it, but he said, what instruments do you play? And he said, well, anything I don't have to put my lips on. But there's a point to that. Isn't to be sexy and to be rocking, like you can't play a horn or something because you got to be able to sing or make faces or do all that stuff. So rock guitar is obviously a no-brainer. Yeah.
Do you remember the bands that you shared with your parents? Like the first musical act that you got into, but they handed down to you?
That so I guess like Hank Williams Jr., actually my dad a little bit, like as far as what we shared. He liked Elvis, but I've never really I appreciate it, but I'm not like a big fan. But there's some Hank Williams stuff that I really enjoyed from my parents. my mom was a classical pianist, so I really appreciate that stuff, but it's not like I ever fell completely in love with, like, with classical music. Ask my brother, he'd tell you a different story, but I would say that. But the thing is, my mom, I think, fell in love with the metal that I used to listen to in the shower before school when I play Wasp or Exodus or something. She'd be like, "Who's that? What's this Blind in Texas song about? What is that?" So, yeah.
You play in a band that comes from a certain viewpoint. Like the 90s was all about teen angst and the anti-rock star thing. Did you realize playing in all these different bands until you got to Sponge that the music that you got into was changing so much?
How would you rephrase that? Do I realize that the music genre, like, or
So like you mentioned Wasp and you mentioned all these bands, and these were the bands that I'm sure shaped your view and love for music. But when Sponge and when you were working with these guys
yeah.
started to reach the mainstream, music was a lot different than what shaped you. So were you
Right.
aware of the changes in music when you
Yes.
started to make
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, for sure. No, there was a tectonic change and a shaking of the whole music business. You know what I mean? Um, uh, yeah, for sure. No, I was very much aware of it. You could feel it. You could see it. You could feel it. You could hear it, and I was okay with it because it got saturated. The music, the '80s metal thing got just too saturated and too over the top, but in the stuff that came out, look in hindsight, was still rocking. The early Alice in Chains stuff, the stuff that was gritty and just nasty. It was like it still had a bit of that. I still liked things that were in tune. So I wasn't a Nirvana fan back then as much. You know what I mean? Like now I really appreciate it. But Alice in Chains was more in tune and harmonies. It was still heavy metal Beatles, was what I love. Harmonies with metal. Yeah.
I always looked at Soundgarden and Alice in Chains as the heavy metal bands
Yep.
of the grunge scene, and like Pearl Jam and Nirvana was more of the grungy stuff. Was there an unsung band from the '90s that stood out to you that nobody talks about?
Well, my all-time favorite band, it predated a little bit of the '90s, but they very much influenced '90s music, was King's X. And they're not they're an enigma. They're a band that if you talk to the guys in Pearl Jam, they'll wear King's X shirts. They influenced a lot of, and all those bands, harmonies, big, thick, way detuned guitars. But it was, like I said, just heavy metal Beatles, but which is what basically Nirvana was, slightly out of tune, which was great.
They always said that Kurt Cobain wrote some of those songs after listening to Meet the Beatles over and over again. Is there a particular album that you listen to before a guitar session or working with another band?
Uh, it depends on the band. And if I'm producing a band or something, it really specific to whatever band it is, that I might listen to some things to get some ideas. And believe it or not, like if I'm producing a band and I'm talking to the singer about, like, stylistically, what can he do to be interesting and be better? I'll bring up singers that have nothing to do with what they're doing. I say, why was Britney Spears successful? Was she a great singer? I said, no, but she might have this specific thing she does that you could imitate on a late night talk show, a Saturday Night Live skit. There's like a lisp or a drawl or a something that they do. So what are you going to do? Give me something that when I'm, coaxing it out of a singer to do something like that, find it.
Well, you worked with Ted Nugent, and I think every guitar player your age and from your era listened to a Ted Nugent album at some point. When you're producing Ted Nugent music, do you hear his influence in you? Like, can you pinpoint things that you've done that you got from what you might be producing from him?
Absolutely. I think I even confided in him on things that I've stole. Like I said, I had to admit, this is what stage moves or whatever it might be, the way you hold the guitar. It's like, you can't deny it, and he's got the best sense of humor and as smart as a tack and appreciated all of that. But yeah, for sure.
I think that every time I've seen a Sponge show, it's always been something different. And I think what we all seek out in music is something new, something exciting. Do you remember the first band that you called your own?
Well, it was an air band. So it was called Kill, and we won first place at our high school talent contest as an air band. So, and you know, I, I eased into everything. Like the first band I was in wasn't great, but it was the first band. You know, everyone does that. You're never in a great thing right away. And I loved every one of them. Everyone has a different story. Every has a different piece that they gave me as a building block as a musician. And that you just said Sponge gives you something new every time. I think, and I'm pretty sure, ironically, you just brought up Ted Nugent. His drummer will be our drummer for this gig, believe it or
On
not.
Saturday.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep, yep. We got the word that our one guy might be locked down up north, and so we called Jason, who's an amazing musician, and Ted's drummer. He's like, "Yeah, I can do it. Let's do it." So
I think anytime you and I spoke about music, we'll talk about a different band every single time. Do you feel that having such a diverse musical taste makes you a better musician, or do you think for some people they need to focus on whatever it is they're playing?
I think it. I think being a better musician doesn't necessarily doesn't help you in any other way but make you a better musician. You know, I don't think that the most successful musician or bands or artists are necessarily great musicians. You know, I think that you know, Donald Fagen from what's his band? You know, like these guys are unbelievable. You know what I mean? But it's not necessarily the first thing I gravitate to listen to. You know, it might be some guy who is Jimi Hendrix who doesn't know music theory, or whoever it was. I don't know if he did or not, but there's so many guys who like, I don't know what chord I'm playing. I'm just, you know, BB King is in the documentary. He's like, who is it? Who was playing with, was it The Edge or something like that? And he's like, you play the chords. I don't play no chords. like, you know.
That
Yeah.
was Rattle and Hum. It was When Love
Yes.
Comes to Town, and he's like, I'm
Yes.
horrible at chords. And it's like, BB King is horrible at chords?
Yeah. I don't play no chords. You play the chords. Yeah.
Is there a particular album in Andy Patalan's collection that would surprise people?
No, because if you watch me and know me, you know, you'll know that I've done Britney Spears covers on my acoustic solo gigs, or what was the Thompson Twins? I'm learning a Thompson Twins song. It's like, no, not really. I don't think it would surprise anybody, you know, the stuff that I listen to, because they know that um, I'm open to anything. Because all kinds of music, you know. Yep.
How important was being from Detroit to your musical career?
For me, hugely. I think there was so it's I know it gets credit. Detroit gets credit, but no one ever fully realizes, like, putting together the Motown thing. In itself, Motown would have been enough. You know, I mean, that would have been enough to say, wow, that's a huge music town. You know, if you think of I don't know, wherever it might be, Memphis, the Memphis sound. It's like, well, okay, that was a little era. Well, it superseded that. Detroit had the Motown sound, but then you add on all the other stuff that's gone into it, all the rock and roll and the techno, the things that I've only realized until later years, how Detroit is like real techno lovers' home. Like the godfathers of techno music and things came from Detroit. I had no idea, no idea. You know, and yeah. Yep.
Do you remember, whether it was Detroit or otherwise, where you saw your first concert?
Uh, yeah, it was, I'm pretty sure my real, I mean, I've been to shows, but like arena concerts, if you're talking arena concerts, the first band was Armored Saint. This was at Cobo Hall in Detroit. Armored Saint opened for Whitesnake, who was opening for Quiet Riot. And it was at Cobo Hall. And I remember, like, my brother took me and he's like, make sure you watch the bass player of Quiet Riot. Watch the bass player, and it's Rudy Sarzo, and he's doing his Rudy Sarzo stuff. And he's like, make sure you watch him. He's the guy. So yeah, that was my first arena concert. I saw shows before that were smaller, but yeah.
Tim is older than you, right? Tim's the older brother?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Did having an older brother who was into music make it easier for you to love music?
Easier, yeah, because he would be planting stuff on me or playing stuff on me of his own stuff, or he would be like, I have three brothers and we shared a bedroom and a bunk bed, we should have. So he might come home after his band rehearsal, because he started earlier than I did, playing classical music and jazz bass and all this, and he'd come home in the middle of the night, and I'm just a whatever kid, and he'd be pull a cassette player out, check this jam out we did, he'd be playing his rehearsal. I'm like, I'm trying to play with my Star Wars figures. What are you doing? Yeah. Yep.
Is it rewarding? That was awesome. Does it ever stop being surreal being in a band on stage with your brother?
No, it's always great. It's always like it's they say when you die, your life passes you by and all this stuff. And it's just like, playing with him is great, because for as much brotherly jesting and fighting or whatever we do, it's always just like it's never now. Like, we don't fight now. It's always, because we're always pretty much in the same, knowing what we need to do to make things right, to make the band sound right, to make, to do the right thing musically and in the music business. So no, it is surreal. It's always, that's why I'm saying, I look over and I go, this is great. I wouldn't want to be playing with another. Yeah.
The most important question of this documentary, and then I have one specific question for you. Is there a particular song that you rely on to lift you out of a funk and can always put you in a good mood?
Oh, it's kind of funny because I don't, when I'm in a funk or a bad mood, I don't really gravitate towards a happy-go-lucky or happy song to lift me up. I'll listen to a song that is already darker or moody or mysterious, and maybe it makes me realize that where I'm at isn't bad when I hear this song that's just so, like, wow, I guess it's not that bad. If it's Elton John's Funeral for a Friend, or Love Lies Bleeding or something like that, I listen to it like, oh wow, like, God, it's not so bad what I'm listening to. So that kind of lifts me up. It's like,
And the most important question for you personally is, we've released Choose Song, and the reaction to it has been so inspiring. And if you read the comments, people are lifting each other up and trying to save each other's lives, which is why we did it. But the vocalists will get the credit, but Andy Patalan wrote the music, came up with that riff for this song. What was it about those lyrics that invoked that riff? Like, did they correlate? Was the riff something you had? Or did that song just evoke that from you?
Absolutely not something I had, and it's unspoken. It's like when you hear the music and the lyrics come back, there were some basic chords there, but it's like the riffs and stuff. Yeah, I can't attribute it to anything but the words. You know what I mean? There was, because that's what was there. It was the words and a couple chords, and it was like, I had nothing preconceived at all. And that's kind of how I work for the most part. It's hard to pull a riff and shove it into something that, that pre-exists. It just sort of happens. Yeah. So absolutely inspired.
When we released the song and you shared it and you had this amazing message to it, the background of the song is out there and it's evident. Was that one of the more surreal experiences that you had releasing music? Froze for a second.
With Choose Song?
Yeah. With Choose Song.
Yeah, absolutely. With the talent, yeah, with the talent that's on there, it's actually, recording it and doing it was just like, of course, I'm going to help you out. We're going to do this song. Vinny's asking me. We're just doing it. I didn't really totally appreciate it until the whole thing is done, and realizing who's involved with it, and how, and you know what I mean? It's a small musical world, but until it all gets done and finished, you realize, holy crap, there's some, some heavy hitters on this, and it's a heavy, meaningful song. You know, like it didn't all hit me until after it was done. You know, until and after the baby is let free to fly.